Today we're going to talk about something huge, a new kind of wealth, one that's being engineered on a scale we've literally never seen. And to really get our heads around it, we're going to use Elon Musk's story as a kind of case study because it shows a massive shift happening in the world right now.
Okay, let's just start with a number. $600 billion. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just money. It's more than the entire GDP of a lot of countries. It's a level of influence that, historically, you'd only see with entire empires.
So right away, you've got to ask, how? I mean, how is that even possible? But the real question, the more interesting one, is how was this wealth engineered? See, this wasn't dumb luck. It wasn't inherited. It was built, piece by piece, like a machine. And if we can understand how that machine works, well, that tells us a whole lot about the world we're all living in.
All right, so let's get into it. The answer to this $600 billion question, it doesn't start with money. It doesn't even start with business, really. It starts with a mindset. A mindset that was forged in a childhood obsessed with one thing: figuring out how systems work, not climbing the social ladder.
Yeah, I mean, when he was a kid, he wasn't chasing popularity or dreaming of fancy cars. His world was, well, it was books, it was physics, it was computers. And all of it was fueled by this one nagging question: how does reality actually work? You know, he was basically reverse engineering the universe in his head, building these complex mental models way before he ever built a company.
And this right here, this is the absolute key to everything else we're going to talk about. He doesn't just build products. He builds systems, interconnected systems, where every piece makes the other pieces stronger. And they're designed from the very beginning to just scale exponentially. That mindset, that's the secret sauce.
So this systems thinking mindset really got put to the test after he made his first big chunk of money from PayPal. You know, he had this huge fortune and he was at a crossroads. For him, that money wasn't the finish line. Nope, it was just a tool. A tool he was about to use on some way, way bigger problems.
Think about it. What does the typical person do when they suddenly become a multimillionaire? They stop working, right? They buy the boat, the island, they check out. He did the exact polar opposite. He took every single dollar he made and he bet it all. Risked everything on problems he thought were truly massive.
And you can almost hear the question he must have asked himself. It wasn't, how do I keep this money safe, or how much fun can I have with this? It was, okay, what problems are big enough, what's important enough to be worth risking all of this? And the answer to that question would define, well, everything that came next. And he landed on three massive, almost impossible challenges. We're not talking about safe investments or following some market trend here. He pinpointed what he saw as existential bottlenecks for all of humanity. We need sustainable energy. We need to be able to survive on more than one planet. And we've got to make sure AI doesn't go off the rails. No small goals, right?
And this is where the story gets, well, it gets pretty crazy. This is the part where he decides to bet it all, and not just once. This isn't your grandpa's diversify your portfolio advice. This was the complete opposite. It was a strategy of pure, uncut, concentrated conviction.
And the risk, oh man, the risk was just off the charts. Back in the early 2000s, he dumped basically every penny from PayPal into two wild ideas: an electric car company called Tesla and a rocket company, SpaceX. And for years, failure, the SpaceX rockets would just blow up. One after another, it all came to a breaking point in 2008. What companies, at the same time, were literally weeks from going completely broke?
So what does that tell you? It tells you that he's following a playbook that is the exact opposite of what every financial advisor on the planet would tell you to do. His fortune wasn't built by spreading risk around. It was built by concentrating it, by having so much conviction in a couple of huge ideas that he was totally willing to lose everything for them.
Okay, so conviction is one thing, but how did that turn into actual, value? Let's break down the systems he built, and we'll start with the one most people think they know. Let's talk about why Tesla is so much more than just a car company.
Right. The trick here is to look past the shiny car driving down the street. That's just the tip of the iceberg. What Tesla really is, at its core, is a massive AI-driven system for energy and manufacturing. The cars, they're just the first, most famous product that pops out of that system.
Yeah, if you crack open the hood on the company itself, you find it's not one thing. It's a battery company, it's a software company that can update your car while you sleep, it's a data company, learning from every mile every Tesla on the road drives, it's a manufacturing and robotics company, and really, tying it all together, it's an AI company. And here's the kicker, all those pieces feed each other. That's why it can grow like a tech company, not like a slow, old-school car manufacturer.
And you see this exact same playbook, this same build-the-whole-system thinking with his other big bet. So let's turn to SpaceX, the company that basically looked at something only governments and superpowers could do and said, yeah, we can do that. They privatized the impossible.
For literally decades, the way space travel worked was insane if you think about it. You'd build this incredibly expensive rocket, launch it one time, and then just let it burn up or crash into the ocean. Just throw it away. SpaceX came in and said, what if we didn't do that? What if we launched it, landed it, and then just used it again? And that one idea, that single change, completely shattered the economics of getting to space.
And the end result wasn't just about making money from launches. It was about gaining massive strategic power. Suddenly, SpaceX became the go-to infrastructure for the entire planet to get satellites into orbit. And once you have that capability, what do? Well, you use it to build your own system on top of it. Starlink, an entire blanket of internet satellites covering the globe. Now that is what system-level control looks like.
So when you zoom out and see this pattern, this systems building approach happening in totally different industries, you start to realize, whoa, something fundamental is changing. It's a whole new way of building power in our century, and it's creating a totally new kind of archetype. Let's call it the engineer king.
If you look back in history, how was massive wealth created? It was about controlling stuff you could dig out of the ground. Land, oil, finite resources. The new playbook is totally different. It's about founder equity, actually owning the system you dreamed up. And it's about vertical integration, controlling the whole stack, from the initial idea all the way to the final product in the customer's hands.
What we're seeing, really, is this huge transfer of power. It's moving away from the old-school institutions, governments and legacy corporations, and it's flowing towards individuals, towards these system architects, the people who are literally designing and building the technological foundations that we're all starting to live on.
And that's where this idea of the engineer king comes from. Look, it's not a royal title, obviously. It's a way to describe a new kind of power player, someone whose influence doesn't come from winning an election or being born into the right family. Their power comes from literally writing the code, building the hardware, and owning the new operating systems of our world.
At the end of the day, this whole story is a giant flashing signpost, telling us what this new era is all about. It's an era that rewards big vision over just doing what's always been done. It rewards the people who actually build things over the people who just manage them. It rewards the risk takers, not the people just trying to keep things the same. And maybe most importantly, it rewards thinking in terms of decades, not just obsessing over the next 3 months.
So we're left with a question that's way, way bigger than just one person's bank account. The question we all need to be asking ourselves is this: who's building and who controls the systems that are going to define all of our lives tomorrow?